and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where Alan and I were lucky enough to sit down with our future mentor and coach, Peter Taunton. Today, for episode number 287, we are going to do a 5-minute clinic on admitting difficult truths.
But before we jump into admitting difficult truths, I want you first to go to the hyperconsciouspodcast.com. No, www.topnotchlive2020.com. Folks, that's where you can get your tickets to our upcoming event on Saturday. 8 speakers, 2 Q&A panels at UMass Lowell Inn and Conference Center. There are 2 discount codes. If you are a college student, we're going to have our volunteers at the registration desks checking college IDs. You can use discount code STUDENT, all lowercase, and you'll get $30 off your buy one, get one ticket, which means that it'll only be $67 for 2 tickets for you and a friend. And if you are not, but you are a listener of the show, you can use discount code 2020 to get $20 off, which means your ticket will be $77 for 2 tickets.
And if you are a listener of this show and you want more out of life, you want more hyper-consciousness, you want the behind the scenes, all of those things, please feel free to do it. Oh my God. Here we go. Please feel free to join our free Facebook group, Hyperconscious Nation. We're all about lifting each other up, and I promise that I speak better in my videos there than I am speaking right now.
Team listeners, so I earlier posted in the group, I was talking to Amy last night about how if we hadn't gone to Your World Within Live, if she hadn't gone, if Tiffany hadn't gone, we wouldn't be experiencing the life we're experiencing now. Alex Hinkle is flying up from Florida as well. His life has changed. He's now director of operations for a company. He was working at Longhorn before he went to Your World Within Live. I've seen so many lives change, including our own, at live events. Please come see us Saturday. We want to meet you. It will change your life. That's the goal of this room. Putting the right people together is everything.
And I genuinely want to meet and connect with people. I probably won't even go to lunch. Anybody that stays for lunch, I'll probably hang out with, and I want to know people's stories. I'm all about that. I'm all about meeting people. So, all right. So today we're going to talk about admitting difficult truths. Why is that important for people? Quickly.
So if you haven't admitted something to yourself, you can't change it really because you haven't acknowledged it yet. Like I remember for me, it was alcohol. Like admitting that I had a drinking problem was the first step to actually overcoming it and working on that. But the other thing about admitting difficult truths, not only to yourself, but to those you love so that they can support you. Because how do they support you in overcoming something that you haven't admitted to yourself? So we both have kind of a story we wanted to tell. Would you like me to go first?
I'll hammer mine.
You probably should.
I'll hammer mine, yeah. So, all right. So from my perspective, sometimes the only way to get right is to admit that you're wrong. Because if you get not caught in a lie, but say something happens and you're not admitting your half of the problem, then you cannot come to a conclusion. You cannot come to fix that problem because one half of the equation is always wrong. So I spoke about this on the podcast, but since we're going back to California next month for Brendan Burchard's HPX event.
San Diego.
Last time we went, when Alan and I, that was the first time we had ever really... We've never been to California together. That was the first time.
Right.
So I remember telling Taryn, not like asking or not informing, more of like, hey, just so you know, in a week, I'm going away for a week kind of deal. And in my mind, it was like, oh, she's going to be so excited for me. She's going to be proud of me. But the way I did it wasn't inclusive. It wasn't like, hey, just so you know, or how do you feel about this? Right. Versus me just saying like, yo, this is what's happening.
Right.
Like, just so you know. And
not very good teamwork.
And she, in fact, didn't feel like she was a part of the team because of that. And I always want her to feel like she's a part of the team. So again, there's 2 things that could have happened. I could have said, oh, you know what? You just, again, like the mind says, you don't know what I'm going through. Of course, my intention is for you to feel like part of the team, but I'm telling you that this is what I'm doing, as opposed to me taking a step back. And I remember, like, we were crying together, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I was just so excited and I was so overwhelmed with my schedule that I didn't do a good job of communicating, I want you to know that this is a big thing for me, and how do you feel about me traveling? Because she's never going to say, no, you can't do it.
Right.
But she wants to feel included. She wants to feel like, although I'm in California, she's still there with me.
Right.
And those are the episodes where I cried all the time when I was talking about her, because she's always with me. She's always with me. She got me this bracelet that I always have this on me. I always think about her every time I see it. So, but for me, if I didn't own that, if I didn't say, you know what, babe, you're right. Like, I was wrong. You're right. I was wrong. What can I do to help?
I think it was like 2 days before or something.
It was something stupid.
Right.
It was something stupid.
And in your defense, it was difficult though because we didn't book it until like
I know.
last minute.
I
But that
know.
doesn't make it doesn't make it right. That's the
No.
point, right? You have excuses for why that was.
Right. When at the end of the day, if I just owned it, which I did eventually,
Right.
I owned it and said, yeah, you're right. Like, I could have done a far better job
Right.
of doing that. And yeah, it's tough. That's so tough. But if you don't accept your role in the argument, in the break, in rapport, it's not going to get resolved. And I think you have to be comfortable enough with yourself to realize that you being wrong does not necessarily flaw you. It doesn't mean you're less of a good person. It just means that you screwed up and maybe your assumptions were wrong.
Right.
What you can do is fix it. But you have to be comfortable enough with yourself first. Where I was, it was like, oh, you know what? I was wrong. You're right. I was wrong, and I apologize for making you feel that way. So that's the lesson that I want you to take away. Get so comfortable in yourself that you're okay with admitting you're wrong, and you don't have to let your ego run. You can let your heart run it.
So important. So important. I've gotten much better at that as well.
It's
Same
difficult.
deal.
It's
It is difficult, especially because your mind immediately goes to, well, if it wasn't for this, and this, I would have done that. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't change the fact that they didn't feel included.
Right.
You know, which is a break in rapport, which is not what you want. All right, so I'll hammer mine quickly because we have this big new timer now that Kevin bought for Top Notch Live, and it's huge, and it's got 19 seconds on it, folks, so I'm going to have to be brief.
I jeffed you.
All right, so the walls we build up to protect our heart actually, yeah, they keep out the bad guys, but they also keep out the good ones. So what do I mean by that? So my girlfriend loves to learn. And she actually did her first podcast episode.
I know.
Which was very cool.
She has a text out to me right now. I will get back to it. I had like 90-something this morning.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's a lot, man.
Excuses. Yeah, I'm kidding. But anyway, so she loves to learn this industry. She loves to learn what Kevin and I are doing. She loves to learn from our coaching calls with Dave. Like, she is literally obsessed with learning, which is literally one of my favorite parts about her. Here's the thing. In the past, I've been in relationships with friends, family, and intimately with people who were unintentionally questioning why I do what I do. So I often say this: if you're driving, if you're sailing to an island that no one else can see, and they believe you're sailing in the wrong direction, they will take wind out of your sails. If they believe in you and in you knowing where to go, they'll put wind into your sails. Emilia has always put wind into my sails from the moment we met. So she doesn't deserve the trigger moment of when she's trying to learn and asking me why I do what I do. I get a little bit defensive. And we've started calling it the doors closing because I wanted her to help me climb out of that when it's happening so that I can recognize it. But the lesson is know who you're with and know how much they support you and understand them so that you don't get defensive, because just like Kevin's story, it was a break in rapport of like, she's just trying to learn about podcasting and about live events and trying to be included. And instead of having an opportunity to teach and learn it even better myself and include her, I'm instead just getting defensive and like kind of putting up these weird walls. So for me, that's a trigger, recognizing the trigger. And now in the future, I can actually understand myself and why I do what I do even more because she asks me so many questions. Like, that's one of my favorite parts. She asked me awesome questions. One of them was, what are you most proud of about the podcast? And it's like every single episode is about how to be a better person. And so if I were to keep those walls up, she's going to stop asking questions. Right. And that's the last thing I want, because questions are everything.
Yeah, I think it's tough. And again, like, go back to your why power. We're actually going to be doing an episode on that Friday. But if you don't admit that you're wrong, like I think that's one of the biggest difficult truths that people have to admit. And your insecurities. If you didn't hear that episode, go back and check that up. We got a lot of love for that episode because everybody has insecurities, and it's very difficult to admit, but it's the truth. When you start admitting the difficult truths, you can start living more true to yourself because they're not going to control you anymore.
Right. And you'll connect better with others.
Yeah. So notice how we both use it in relationships. Why?
Right.
Because that's most of the time where you're going to have to, you either admit them to yourself or you're admitting them to somebody else.
Right.
And when you do that, you will connect far better.
And I even got to the point where I asked for help, like, let me know when that's happening.
Right.
Because sometimes it's hard to know. So now we refer to it as the doors are closing.
Yes.
So now I can go, oh, okay, I'm being defensive. I don't need those defenses anymore, and move forward.
So next time you have the opportunity to admit a difficult truth to yourself or to somebody else, make sure that you understand that on the other side of that is probably a better connection, or you'll probably feel like some weight has come off your shoulders and it's going to make everything a little bit better. Sometimes it takes a little pain to get the pleasure after.
Amen to that,
So
brother.
we are, after this episode, we are going to do, so this is Monday. On Wednesday, you are going to hear us talk about why mentors matter so much. We are
Ooh.
blessed to have David Meltzer as a mentor, Evan Carmichael, Anthony Trucks, right? Mark Metry is a good friend now, but
Right.
he mentors us on LinkedIn and other things. We mentor him on fitness, right?
Oh, yeah.
We just started to, well, we haven't yet, but we're going to be working with Peter Taunton, who you guys just heard on the last episode. He is unbelievably successful when it comes to finances and businesses.
Oh, yeah,
One of the reasons we are where we are is because of the mentors that we have.
for sure.
And
One of the biggest reasons.
We're going to break down the behind the scenes of what do we actually learn from mentors.
How do you get mentors?
How do you get
sustain
mentors?
them? How do you
Yes.
add value? Yeah.
Yeah, because getting mentors is one thing, keeping them is a whole nother.
Oh, yeah.
We
True.
hope, and if you haven't got your tickets yet, hurry up and get them, because this event is coming up, and I want to hang out with you guys. I don't want to meet you, I want to hang out with you guys.
TopNotchLive2020.com.
And we will talk to you on Wednesday.
Talk to you soon.
Bye!